Recalculating Route, a show about taking a new direction with your life. Here's your host, Christee Atwood.
It's 6 o'clock, and officially that time every week when we say, it's Recalculating Route with Christee Atwood, and everybody answers, what the heck is Recalculating Route, and who is Christee Atwood? It's this show, and we are so glad you're here today because we've got a really special show. In fact, Celeste, come on in the room. We've got a great guest today you are going to enjoy talking to. Celeste Hackett, and honestly, Celeste, I just had to put your tagline on the little picture that I have here that says, just a lady who lives in Texas and hypnotizes people. I thought that was like the coolest tagline I've ever seen.
Thank you very much.
And I'm so glad you could be here with me today. This is kind of cool because I'll tell you, hypnotherapy has always been very interesting to me. And I'm starting to see more and more people saying, oh my gosh, this really helped me. But there's still so much misconception about what hypnotherapy is as opposed to that stage hypnotism stuff we see. Please help get us on the right track with this to start off with.
Well, first of all, what you want to know is rules, or rather laws, vary from state to state. So here in Texas, I actually cannot call myself a hypnotherapist. But there in Louisiana, I probably could. So here in Texas, I've got to make sure that I don't make it seem like I'm practicing medicine or therapy without a license. So I am a hypnotist, which I'm proud to be a hypnotist. I almost like that more.
It is kind of cool. Yeah.
Now, so your question is about, what was your question? I'm doing very well, I can see.
Love it. I just love it. Okay. The question was, we have all these misconceptions about what, hypnotism is. Because we all think we're going to end up clucking like chickens. We've seen too many of those stage shows. Help us get past that.
So if you want me to help you cluck like a chicken, you're going to have to pay me more.
No, I don't want to cluck like a chicken.
I'm just teasing. Okay.
This is going to be a very difficult night, isn't it?
Okay.
Should I mention that Celeste was also in radio like I was? That's a problem.
We're just going to have fun. Okay. So this is really what hypnosis is. It took me a long time to figure this out because I had all these ideas of what hypnosis was myself. And every person who becomes a hypnotist takes a long time to figure out what it is. You have to see a lot of clients to really figure out. It's super, super, super simple. The state of hypnosis is the state that you go into when you get an idea. Or you have an image come to mind. For example, the other day I was making pancakes and an image of my grandmother came to mind. It's like nobody asks where the idea comes from, where the image comes from, where the memories come from when they come to consciousness. People don't ask about where the intuition comes from. There's a state of mind where you can access deeper parts of yourself. And we call this place the hypnotic state. And there's several different depths to it. And the best one to work in is somnambulism, which is the state where you can really bring up things that the subconscious will actually share things with the conscious mind that are pertinent to a problem that you're working on. So a good hypnotist knows how to take someone to that state on purpose and on time, because we have a time frame that we have to get in and out. And then I got another client. So in a very timely way, I take my clients to this state. Then I help my clients to sustain this state. Then while they're in this state, I know how to ask questions in such a way that the subconscious gets what I want. And then I'll ask it information about the problem. The answer will come to the client. The client will share what comes to mind, their awareness with me. We'll look at it together in a better way than they originally looked at it. They feel different after they make this shift, because usually there's going to be a realization there like, oh, my mother actually did love me, even though she sent me to bed before my brother, so it's that kind of a thing. That's really, to me, what hypnosis is. It's just a state of mind that you go in and out of. People have these things coming up. They just have gotten used to just not paying attention to these things because it's usually very random. They don't know why they're getting this information. The mind literally works by association. So a lot of times it's not necessarily trying to help you. It's just going, oh, you mean that? Okay, well, how about this? It'll do that. Yeah. So you're thinking about pancakes, remember your grandmother, right?
Yeah.
But it's a good deal like a computer, truly. I mean, I literally can find very, very, very pointed information, specific as, pardon my French, as specific as hell about a problem that my clients are presenting. And so that's when the rubber really hits the road with a hypnotist. They need to know how to communicate with the subconscious and elicit this stuff.
Well, the way you're talking about it, though, does that mean that sometimes when we don't even realize it, we're kind of like hypnotized?
Yeah, absolutely. You can call it that. Yes, yes. You go in and out of hypnosis. It's a very natural state. There's no danger in it.
Is that why so many people think they haven't been hypnotized when they go through, you know, like they do some of the hypnotherapy type stuff and they think, oh, I can't be hypnotized, because maybe they don't realize that they're in that state sometimes?
Exactly. Well, I have to really talk to my clients about that, because if I don't, they will give themselves suggestions when they're in a suggestible state. A hypnotic state is also a heightened state of suggestibility. When my clients are there, if I give them a suggestion and they accept it, that's the other key part of it, the suggestion will have an effect on them. By the same token, when they're in this state of mind, if they give themselves a suggestion, like they have a devil on their shoulder going, I don't think I'm hypnotized, this doesn't feel like anything, why am I paying her my money? Then that's going to have an effect on them. They'll emerge from the session and go, well, that wasn't good for me, and I don't think it did anything. And wow. The inner mind is quite tricky, and it will try to trick you out of anything, because it doesn't, sometimes it just thinks that, you know, you could be in danger, right? Or it just it likes things to stay the same. So there can be a part of you that thinks that, you know, that it's very intimate to you, which is what really, it also makes it tricky, because if an idea comes, you think, well, this is the truth because it's me, this is me thinking, but it's really another part of the mind. So for instance, I had a man come in for weight loss, and I gave him a bunch of good suggestions that usually immediately will start affecting someone. And he showed every indication that he was accepting the suggestions. And when I saw him the next time, he was mad because they hadn't, quote unquote, worked. So he was eating everything in sight like he had been doing before the session. And so I said, well, I know you're kind of irritable about this because I know you're paying really good money for this, but let's look at it, because this is just a learning experience. And I really, if you don't care, I would like to learn what happened. So I said, okay, when I said you're eating less food, do you remember what you felt and what you thought about that? And he said, well, I was excited. So that was an indication he accepted the suggestion. The same with you eat less often, you make better food choices, and your appetite is suppressed. These are the suggestions I will routinely give to people who are coming in for weight loss. So I was really kind of going, gosh, you know, I don't know what could have happened. And then I thought, oh, I know. Let me ask you this. How well did you think you did at being hypnotized? And he said, I thought I failed. And I said, well, why? And he said, because I heard a dog barking, and I thought, if I can hear a dog barking, that means I'm not hypnotized. And so that undid all of the positive suggestions, because he didn't believe he was hypnotized. So you can undo direct suggestion like that. But luckily, direct suggestion is just one very primary skill. So I said, don't worry about it, we'll fix it today. And I explained to him what he did. And I said, remember I talked about the devil on your shoulder, that if there's a part of you that says you're not hypnotized, she sounds like your mother, I don't like this isn't working, just kind of push it away and say, get away from me, mission first, and just bring your attention back to the sound of my voice. The mind tricked you because that voice sounds like you. Oh, a dog's barking, I'm not hypnotized. But it was really this part trying to mess things up for you. And so after that, we fixed it, and we were able to help him lose all the weight he wanted to lose. But that's the kind of stuff that will cause you to feel like you're not hypnotized. There's a part of the mind that is just not going to have it. You have to know that ahead of time and just keep turning away from it, or just, you know, it can talk. You just don't want to accept it. So it can say, you're not hypnotized. Just go, you know what, mission first, we'll get to you later. Because a good hypnotist will deal with that part later. I deal with that as a saboteur. I do a whole session on self-sabotage. It's the last session I do. And by that time, that part's calmed down quite a bit anyway, because it's watching and it's going, oh, this is getting pretty, okay, she's helping her. You know, you got to kind of win it over.
Yeah.
So,
wow. This is fascinating. Okay. What about, okay, there's all this stuff, YouTube to death, you know, hypnosis sessions and all this kind of stuff. and there's those subliminal things and all that kind of stuff. And I always worry what they're actually saying to me in those things. What is the what is the effect of those? Are they valid, or are they a little bit less effective than if we were dealing with a person?
So you're talking about subliminal messages.
They
right?
have there's a lot of different kinds on YouTube. There's things that are supposed to be self-hypnosis. There's things that are supposed to
Okay.
be subliminal. There's the whatever beats and all that kind of stuff they have. So
Okay, yeah, that's 3 different things. So we'll take
Yeah.
one at a time. Okay.
good.
Let's
Okay.
talk about subliminal messages.
Okay.
So subliminal messages are usually messages that they'll put under some music or recording that's so low, either you can barely hear them or you can't hear anything at all. That's usually how they do the subliminal things. There was a great study done on those one time, many, many years ago. There was just a flash of eat more popcorn at a drive-in movie theater,
Yes.
and the popcorn sales went out the roof. So they're supposed to really, really work. So when I heard that, and I was a new hypnotist, I thought, well, gosh, I'm going to make use of this. I made recordings for all of my clients. I honestly didn't see anything all that great other than just what you might get from direct suggestion, which can be very powerful, but it's not long lasting. And the reason is because the client has all these other reasons that have been inside of them much longer than the new information coming in. And eventually they're going to rear their head and push out the new stuff and get you back to where you were before. Also in the external environment with family and friends and anybody that you admire or look up to, if somebody says, oh, you were hypnotized, that doesn't work. Only a weak person would be hypnotized. And that might undo the suggestions.
I hear that one a lot. Yes.
Yeah. So that's the subliminal thing. So now the other thing was self-hypnosis, and you're talking about seeing self-hypnosis on YouTube, which means there's a recording that people are listening to. Is that what you mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it could be about weight loss, or it could be
Right.
about stop smoking. Well, there's a lot of problems with those. They're good for people who can, some people just are fantastic subjects. They don't pay any attention to this conflicted part of them, the devil on the shoulder. You probably have known some of these people over the years. You just could tell them anything, and it's like they just open up and believe it, and they just soak it up. I'm not talking about somebody who can be easily fooled. I'm just talking about people who have the ability to just put everything aside and just soak in things and let them affect them. Mm-hmm. This is good stage subjects. There's it depends on how those recordings set the whole thing up. An average person, an average subject could also do very well with self-hypnosis, depending on if the hypnotist has set up some of the things, like the thing about, just don't pay any attention to that little voice that's conflicted, just push it away. That's a really important thing that most of those recordings don't do. Most
Right.
hypnotists need more training. When you get these recordings, this is very, very, very basic, tip of the iceberg of what a hypnotist could do. And just like with the subliminal messages, you'll get if you're the type of subject that can take this in without questioning it and just allow it, you'll get a bump out of it. But then what? Because again, the stuff from the past that hasn't been resolved is going to rear its head. And so it's going to override these suggestions. Some people, however, those suggestions can last a very long time. And the going belief among most hypnotists that is if you keep pounding the subconscious with the same recording over and over again, it's going to rewrite over subconscious programming. Nobody really will tell you how long that takes. I can tell you with my sessions, most things are fixed in 5 sessions, and they're practically never the same again. It doesn't mean that life won't happen, but because we're undoing that other stuff. This is just programming over crap that's already in them, that's caused the problem to begin with. Now, the third thing you wanted to talk about, so we did self-hypnosis, subliminal messages. What was the other one?
Oh, those little beats that people do.
The beats thing. Oh, yes, that is really interesting. So you're talking about
binaural beats.
Binaural beats, and this is not okay. So those are really aimed towards brainwave activity, and in certain brainwave activity, which means there's going to be some relaxation. So a lot of people do believe, erroneously in my opinion, that brainwave activity, like the theta state, there's alpha, theta, whatever, I don't remember anymore. I used to know all that because I used to buy into it also. And I would have my clients wear these flashing light, and it was really fun.
I've seen those.
And then the sounds, and then I had a microphone hooked up, and I'd be like, "Close your eyes," you know. It was really fun because, of course, I like a microphone, right? Just like back in radio, I could do this. And plus, I didn't have any other training anyway. But because this is your primary training as a hypnotist, is to learn how to talk, basically, just with direct suggestion to the subconscious. So, so it's really about relaxing the brain, which you can measure. That's why they say alpha, theta, all that, beta, whatever, because you can see the measurements. And if you go to a certain place, then theta, they say, is hypnosis. It's not. It's just a relaxed brain. Hypnosis, and this is something I'm going to say, I'm going to pause so you really get it, because most people will not believe this. They won't get it. And as soon as I say it, they brush it off. This is how deeply ingrained in our culture this is. So you got to know this.
I'm ready.
Hypnosis isn't relaxation of any kind. So most people they just have a really hard time buying that. Even the new hypnotist, I had a hard time buying it. So if my client wasn't relaxed, I thought, well, I'm messing up. But the truth is people can be very agitated. People can be very provoked. People can be very restless and be in a deep state of hypnosis. And sometimes clients are, because the way I do hypnosis, we're working, sorry, I'm going to close the blind. I'm working with emotional stuff. So they're not always like, oh, Celeste, I love this. First session, generally, I'll do something like that just because I want them to come back. And also because a lot of people just don't relax. Yeah. And it's nice. It's nice to relax. Then they because a big thing for a hypnotist is to gain rapport.
Yeah, so you're building that relationship.
Relaxation. Yeah. Yeah, and they're coming to my house. They don't know me. They don't know what they're getting themselves into. I always tell them, I'm more afraid of you. You know where I live, because can you imagine, I have people, I work out of a home office. Everybody who comes here knows where I live. I'm more afraid of them for real. So I'm going to treat them right. So the first session is just getting them into somnambulism. I will see when people are suggestible and they know to push that conflicted part away, that means they're going to accept suggestions of relaxation. And it's shocking to many of them that they can actually relax, because a lot of people say, I can't relax. I have all this anxiety. And then they're, just so relaxed. So it's really nice for them. It gives them some hope. The first session is about getting someone into somnambulation. From my standpoint, that's my goal. I always have a criteria I'm looking to reach in each session. That's like, get them into somnambulism. I got to do some testing and make sure I'm happy. They won't know that they're in somnambulism. It doesn't feel like anything in particular to them. Mm-hmm. That's the other thing you have to tell people, because if they're looking to feel something, they could be very disappointed. However, relaxation is nice, so usually that appeases them. So I want to get them into somnambulism. And then I want to give them suggestions or do anything that I can do so when they leave, they're hopeful. Because that's the main thing. I want a hopeful client. So if I can get them to relax and they've never been able to relax, that makes them think, oh, wow, this must mean that she can help me with something, something happened. And then I also will give them so the hypnotist needs to in some way convince the client in that first session. And so that's what I'm doing in various ways. And not necessarily that they're hypnotized. That's nice if you can do that, but just that they're on the right track. That's helpful. Then they
building the foundation, it seems like.
And that's the first criteria. And I don't know why I got off into this. I'm sorry.
This is wonderful.
I don't know what the question was. So
I don't either.
We're talking about relaxation. Yeah. That's it. And the binaural beats. And so to me, it's not hypnosis, but a lot of hypnotists would fight me tooth and nail on that. Mm-hmm.
But this is fascinating. Okay, question from someone we know very well. David asked, can someone be taught to do self-hypnosis to utilize once they finish their sessions with you?
I teach all my clients rather self-hypnosis. So long as they want to learn it. A lot of people, they're so busy they don't have time to do it. Once they learn that there's a great benefit in doing it, they start making the time. And sometimes that just takes a little while. Like usually the second session is the session where people are really pretty, they're pretty amazed at the things that their mind can do. Like the mind will bring up specific things. They cause them to feel like bad. And then we look at it and the feeling goes away right there in that moment. And they're like, wow, where'd it go? And then they emerge and they have this great week. So, yeah.
That's cool. This is amazing to me. do you ever find people that you just really, really cannot get through to because they've built up that wall so much?
Those people don't want to pay my prices. So once somebody pays the prices, they're already in, they're buying in. That's why I screen people on the phone. Generally, in the beginning when I wasn't charging very much and I didn't know how to talk about this stuff, I would sometimes have people come in to try it out. You know what I mean? And that's always the mistake. You want people to, even though I'll do that sometimes if I get the sense that if they try it out, they're going to be happy. Most of the time, I just make sure that we do the sessions. You know what I mean? And then, so initially I had a few people who, I thought they weren't hypnotized because I didn't know what hypnosis was. Again, you learn as you experience things.
Yeah, I guess.
Most people go into hypnosis very easily. I mean, think about it. You're going from not having an idea to having one, not having a thought that's from the past or an image to having one. You can even do that on purpose. You can purposely put yourself back in a time when something happened. And there's two ways of doing that. Either as if it's happening all over again. That's why you see people talking to themselves and they're moving their hands, they're hallucinating, right? Everybody does that. It's a natural thing that human beings have the natural ability to hallucinate, or you can just look back over time as you're standing aside looking at it. So, and to do that either way, you're most likely in a hypnotic state. It's really not a difficult state to go into. But back when I first started, if somebody wasn't relaxed, I thought they weren't hypnotized. Looking back now, everybody entered into hypnosis. Not everybody followed my instructions once they got into hypnosis. That's where you really see changes. People, to have a good subject is somebody who is of normal intelligence, and then secondly, they are willing to follow instructions. If you have those two things, there's not going to be any problem at all.
Wow, it sounds almost like you're peeling an onion. Getting to those things that are so far back in us that we don't realize that it's part of our programming.
Certainly there's layers of the way we store things are in layers. Like at first when I work with people, I'm just getting them into somnambulism, having a positive experience. I'm learning what they want. We're setting goals. I'm usually asking the subconscious also in that session to Google them and collect data for us. And I'm also asking it to just give them an emotional holiday, because the subconscious can push any of these bad feelings aside for about a week. It'll do that for you. If it believes that you're going to help them, it will just put everything aside. The person will have a pleasant week. And then I teach self-hypnosis.
This is amazing. I like what Julie just put on here. She said, it sounds like our expectations or ideas of hypnosis impact the results.
Oh, yes. Yes, definitely. Sometimes people go, very rarely anymore, because I'm pretty good at, I know that the things that people do in their head, right? So the first session, I'm talking a lot about their expectations and about what they should think of, how they should think about hypnosis. So if somebody has the idea that hypnosis means you go to sleep, and you don't correct that, they might go to sleep. If somebody has the idea that hypnosis is just being talked to really nice and that's all you're doing, once you uncover some of these things that they need to look at and they're unpleasant, which that does happen sometimes, they might think that you're not doing it right. If somebody has the expectation that hypnosis is forgetting what happened during the session, then certain, not everybody, but certain subjects can emerge from the session, forget everything that happened, and then what you did won't impact them after they emerge. So these ideas or attitudes about what hypnosis is, i.e. expectations, can affect your outcome. So absolutely.
Well, I know it's got to be affecting what you're doing right now with the whole pandemic thing. Are you able to do hypnosis by telephone?
I've done many sessions by phone, especially when the audio fails on the Zoom, which it does fail either on their end or my end sometimes. If I can keep at least the video up while I'm talking on the phone with headsets, I'll do that. But
oh, you do them by Zoom too, though?
Oh, most of my sessions, if they're not in person in my home office, I'm doing them on Zoom. I've done hypnosis sessions with people all over the world. Cool. And I've also done just straight up phone sessions. Yes, you can do it both ways. It's a little better with video because you can kind of see nuances of expression on a person's face. It does help the hypnotist at certain times.
You're able to kind of gauge.
You can see if somebody's flushed. You can see if somebody's tearing up. Because sometimes people won't tell you what's going on. So once you kind of get a hint, you can say something about it, and then they'll tell you. Sometimes they'll just kind of hold it in. So those are good reasons Or you could just see a little smirk or a smile or a jerk. And, you know, because you're asking them, the subconscious, to reveal things. Well, I'm only, when they're speaking about what's happening, I'm only getting about 10% of that. So sometimes I need to ask more questions. Like if they jerk, I want to say what just happened. It might be important, you know? So, so it's good to have some video, but it's not 100% necessary. I've done many sessions on the phone. I prefer video with audio, or live or on Zoom. Works the best.
Okay. All right. This is really great. Okay. And by the way, folks, this is open to questions. We got some people there watching right now. So if you have questions or anything like that you'd like to bring up, Celeste Hackett is our guest, and she's talking about hypnotism. Okay. I'm going there. All right. When they make people act like a chicken on stage, what the heck is going on? Are those people faking? What's going on with that?
Like I said, some people are very suggestible and they can push everything else aside, and they'll cluck like a chicken or quack like a duck, and they're just all into it. I mean, think about role playing as a child. You know, you could be a chicken or a duck anytime you wanted, or a dog, or the postman if you really wanted to. Some people have the ability to forget, like I said, what happened in a hypnotic state. So there are people, and you'll see this sometimes with very timid audience members, and they'll think, gosh, you know, I would just really like to let my hair down once. So they'll go up there because they know that they're going to be given the ability to forget what happened. Wow. And so they'll go up there and they're able to, so they're able to do that. Other people, they just, you know, they're drinking. Some of them are really actually hypnotizing. Some of them are just entertaining.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the hypnotist in that situation is primarily an entertainer. So as long as you're entertaining, he's going to keep you up there. You know, even if you're faking it, just be entertaining if you want to stay up there. But some of it's quite real. And sometimes people really are just so into the role that they're playing that they're just really there. They're really there. You could understand it a little better if you've ever had a moment where you relived something, and it was like you really like the most real dream you've ever had, perhaps. Or I'm somebody who talks to myself, and I could be walking around and I could be lost in a conversation before I catch myself going, God, you know, what if somebody saw me? That's really embarrassing. I was, you know, really talking to them and everything.
That's why I'm glad I have masks on. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so some subjects have the ability to just go right there and do that. It can be so real to them. But a lot of it is also just they're playing along for the fun of it.
Does that make it hard for you when people find out you're a hypnotist? Are they immediately scared that you're going to do something to them, that you're going to get in their heads?
We get that sometimes. Don't look into my eyes.
Yeah.
There was years and years ago. I always wondered why people said that. Don't look into my eyes. Don't look into my eyes. Because I mean, we're taught about the watch, you know, in hypnosis.
Oh,
school.
she's got the watch,
this? Don't look into my eyes thing.
Here's
the watch, folks, which I never use, but I brought it just for fun here. It's not gonna listen to me, but don't look into my eyes goes back to a long time ago. I don't know, maybe in the 1940s. There was a boxer, and he had some kind of I can't remember the story, but I think he hypnotized people to believe that if they look into his eyes, he would win or something like that. So people wouldn't look into his eyes. And he had some sort of winning streak around that whole idea. And so that became a thing. Yeah.
Wow.
I will tell you an interesting story about stage hypnosis if you want to hear it really quick. And I think you, Christy, would really like it because it's very entertaining.
You know me too well.
Call me. Yes. Well, I was thinking about your radio background, and you know, I love the story because it's just so entertaining. But there was this man who called me one time, and he was a very wealthy businessman, and he had some salespeople, and he was single at the time, and one of the sales girls was really cute, about half his age, and you know, they became lovers or whatever, and he took her to Las Vegas, and she decided to go up on stage. So she goes up on stage, and it's one of these really risque hypnosis shows, which you can find in Las Vegas sometimes. The organization that I'm a part of doesn't like these shows, the National Guild of Hypnotists, but they exist. And so she went on stage, and the hypnotist put a quote unquote button on her head. So whenever anybody touched it, she would have an orgasm.
Oh my.
So Yeah, so her boyfriend was thrilled. He loved this button. The button worked all the time and added a great dimension to their love life. And he called me because the button stopped working and could I fix it? And you know what? I did fix it. It was really funny because it's like, tell me about this girl. This is a dang good hypnotic subject. I certainly want to meet her. I want to just see. I got to meet this lady, you know? So she came in and I got the story. After this is what caused her button to stop working. After the show, they got home, they had this great time with this button, and he got more and more interested in hypnosis. So he started reading books about hypnosis, and he started getting pretty good at like removing her migraines and all this kind of stuff. And he felt really good about himself and everything. And then she got really interested in hypnosis, and she said, well, I want to be the hypnotist now, role play, right? So he goes, well, okay. And so she writes this hypnotic script for him that she's going to read to him. With hypnosis, you have a script that is an induction, a script that's a deepening, and then a script that's the body of the work you're doing, which is the direct suggestion. Then you have a script that emerges you. So she, figured this whole thing out, and she took a lot of time from her heart to write this script for her. Man, so she starts, and she's a little nervous because she's never hypnotized anymore. He's laying on the couch, and she says, okay, close your eyes. And she starts talking, and he starts fidgeting, and then he starts giving her advice. Well, you really need to talk slower. And she's like, oh, okay. And then so she keeps trying to follow his advice, and he's not having it. Basically, he's just like poo-pooing her ability to hypnotize and all this kind of stuff. And he's trying to stop himself, but he can't help it. And after a while, she ends up in tears and runs out of the room. And shortly after that, her button stopped working.
Surprise!
So to get it back working again, I had to say, do you remember how much fun you had with the button? And she said, yeah, that was great. And I said, and do you realize that there's not another woman in the world that has a button like this? I mean, you are giving this man something he will never find anywhere else. Don't you want that button back? Yeah, maybe I do. And then I helped her get over her anger at him. And then I gave her some tricks that he didn't know how to use, like instant inductions, because you can't get that from a book. And I showed her how to do it. And then I said, now, next time when you do this, it wasn't you. He's not following your instructions. That's the main problem here. He needs to just man up, lay down, and follow your instructions. And then he'll go into hypnosis. And if he doesn't, he's not following the instructions. And you're in charge. Take charge. And so she did. So it was really cool. It's a really fun story.
Wow. Oh, no. See, that'd be scary to me because I'd be like, go scratch my head and, oh.
Yes.
I don't know if I'd want that button. Okay.
Yeah, you wouldn't want that button at work or something. And like, you're not paying attention. It's like, oh!
I accidentally scratched the head and everybody's like, whoa, what's in her coffee? Wow, this is fascinating. Well, do you have, I know you can't share a whole lot of stories, I'm sure, because those.
I can share stories without names.
Oh, share stories then.
You want another one? You
want to
hear about a lady? You want to hear about a lady who wanted to come in for weight loss?
Okay.
And so she had moved here to the area where I live. I'm in Plano, Texas, and she had moved from overseas somewhere. I can't remember where. And she didn't have any family here, and her husband took on a job, and she was sitting at home a lot, and she was just eating. She was just eating all the time, and so she wanted to stop eating. And so she took up racquetball to kind of offset the calories. And I don't know if you know about racquetball, but that's a lot of calories burned when you play racquetball. She was on a league, but she still couldn't stop eating. So she called me and she said, can you help me? And I said, I think so. So, come on in. So she came in, and I tried to help find the reason why she was overeating. And it seemed like I found it, and I gave her direct suggestion, and she was doing pretty good. After about the third session, she said, but I'm not losing weight. Well, let's look at what's going on here, because you should be losing weight if you're, eating less food, eating less often, making better food choices, and your appetite is suppressed. That's what I tell all my clients. It works pretty good. And but then sometimes I need to like really look closer, because sometimes they're unaware of calories they're taking in, you know. So I said, well, you know, are you snacking? Sometimes I need to do work around it. A lot of people do unconscious eating. They don't even know they're doing it.
Yeah, that whole thing.
Yeah, a little bit here and a little bit there.
Yeah.
Yes. Or they just don't realize, you know, that how many calories are in their Starbucks drink or whatever. I had one lady, for instance, who said all she was doing was drinking tea, because like I'll check on the drinks, you know, because people tend to think they don't have it. But this lady was putting a cup of sugar in a half gallon of tea, and she couldn't lose weight because of all the sugar. But not this lady. That's another lady. So this lady I'm talking about, the racquetball lady, we were kind of looking at everything to see if there was something I was missing. And then I said, are you snacking? And she said, well, sometimes I'll have a little bit of cookie dough. And I thought, well, a little bit of cookie dough. I'm thinking, you know, Pillsbury's making a little thing you can get in the freezer section or something. You know, I don't mind. If it's working for them, they should eat whatever you want to eat. I don't put people on any diet, you know, just in general, what's going on, right? And so I said, okay, well, just to be sure, I'll ask her how much cookie dough it is. Now, but I figured it was going to be some little thing. And she said, well, I said, how much cookie dough are you eating? She said, well, as much as the recipe calls for, every day. And she didn't know why she wasn't losing weight. And she also was not computing consciously. She was not getting this at all. And I looked at her and I was like, I'm about to tell her something and it's going to have a big impact, because she is really not seeing that all this cookie dough, what it's doing to her. So I said, okay, let me ask you a question. How many calories do you think like just one spoon of cookie dough has in it? And she went, oh my God! And she started crying. It was the weirdest thing. Like the subconscious would not let her have this information to protect her, because what happened with her, what we found out later, was she was eating because she was nervous. So at first, all she thought is, I just want the cookie dough. I just want the cookie dough. I'm just hungry. I just want it. And I just, you know, just the thought of cookie dough, well, you know, so there's no feeling there. I just want the cookie dough. I said, okay, but in the hypnotic state, I said, okay, go, but just moments before the desire for the cookie dough, what are you feeling? And she said, oh. And she said, right here. People most of the time, they'll touch their chest or their stomach because they feel it. It's like, oh. I said, well, what is that? Is that, you know, what is that feeling? She said, I think it's nervousness. And I said, okay, focus on that feeling, and we're going to find why you have this feeling, right? Well, the subconscious takes her back to a house when she was really little, where there were a lot of they had bought this new house. It was out in the country, and there were field mice coming in, and they had a whole bunch of field mice in there, and she was little tiny, holding up her dress on her tippy toes, running from these mice, and her mother was terrified of mice, so she had that also that was making her more terrified of mice. And then, but we kept trying to find the beginning of it. In the beginning, I said, okay, how old are you? And she said, oh, about 6 months. I said, what's happening? She said, I'm standing on a stool. I said to myself, 6-month-olds don't stand up. So I said, what do you mean you're standing on a stool? She said, I'm in my mother's arms. And I say, oh, is she, true or false? She's standing on the stool holding you. She said, yes, because when you're that little, you're still enmeshed in some way. You don't realize that you're part of your mother, So these are the tricks I have to keep in mind as I hear what people are telling me, right? And then, so we took away that fear, and she was able to be at home alone, because in her mind, being at home, her subconscious thought there was going to be a rat. So it was making her eat to just kind of take her mind off of the fear. So once that was gone, that fear was gone, I said, now you'll never have to distract from that old feeling by overeating, and you can reject cookie dough. So it worked. She came back and she was fine, but she said something that sort of surprised me. She said, and do you know what? I also am not afraid of trash cans or bushes. I said, well, you never told me about that. What do you mean? She said, well, I was always afraid a rat was going to jump out of a trash can or a bush at any time. So she had this fear of rats as well.
That's so hard.
Yeah, it was a very interesting session.
Wow. This is fascinating. The comment, wow, the subconscious has its own defense mechanism. And
all levels of the mind do. All levels of the mind.
Wow. This is just amazing to me. What suggestions would you have to people who are thinking about going to a hypnotist for, for whatever kind of therapy or whatever they're thinking about, what are things they should look for? What should they be careful about? Suggestions?
Yeah, the best suggestion is to Google that person. Sometimes people have really good websites, they're really good AdWords, but have they been around? Because a good hypnotist really needs to get in there and hypnotize people. Mm-hmm. A lot of hypnotists have a certification on the wall, but they're really not a hypnotist yet. A hypnotist hypnotizes people and hypnotizes people and hypnotizes people, and that's how you get good at anything.
Right, like you were talking about from your earlier days to now, it just keeps developing.
Yeah, I'm still learning stuff. So I have hypnotized over thousands of people. And so, if they haven't been around for a long time, then you might still get something out of it. You might also help them grow. So that'd be good. Just don't pay very much. But I would look for, where, just see where, are they all over the place? How long have they been in business? Have they, just see just follow them on, are they on YouTube? Where in social media are they? Mm-hmm. Talk to them and see if they know their stuff. Talk to them and see if they just sound any deeper than a flat wall about things. Sometimes you'll call a hypnotist and they'll go, yes, I hypnotize people and the subconscious is great. And they might tell you a little bit. And if you don't know what they're saying, if you don't know a little bit about the subconscious and they know a little bit, it can sound like they really have depth in this, right?
Yeah.
Right. Because they're just using words and phrases that you don't know. Mm-hmm. And then, just sooner or later, you got to take a risk. You got to just, if you really like them on the phone, you've Googled them and you've researched them, and there might be other people that you see are connected to them. You can ask them, you can call them for, see if there's any referrals, look at their Yelp and look at their Google reviews. Hopefully they've got some of those. Those aren't always guaranteed reviews or, testimonials on their website. Sometimes they're manufactured, but the best thing is, sooner or later, you gotta like them well enough. And, if you get any creepy feelings, there's creepy feelings that we always get when we're doing something new. And sometimes it's our past that's causing that. Mm-hmm. That would be something familiar to you. Like you would know, this is the way I get, right? Mm-hmm. And then, but then if there's something else, you definitely want to use your intuition. That said, most hypnotists, I don't know any hypnotists that have done anything bad to anybody. Mostly they're just ineffective at worst. And there are a lot of ineffective ones.
I loved that the fact that the first time I even posted anything about you coming on the show, immediately I had a testimonial there. And it was like, okay, yeah, that's a really good sign right there, isn't it? So that was kind of cool. So that's, word of mouth is probably the best that we could ever get on that, huh?
That's probably the best way.
Lori has asked, she said, I recently read a book where a character underwent hypnosis with regression therapy in order to recall memories from very early childhood. Is regression therapy a real thing?
Yeah, I do it with almost every client. And if I had only one tool in my toolbox, I'd be doing what they call, another name for it is age regression or hypnosis age regression therapy, but it's not therapy here where I am. Okay, it's just just age regression technique. But yes, it's done correctly. It's amazing. It's the thing I love the best. It's the most kind of weird in a good way. It's like, wow, I didn't know I had that information or the ability to overcome that or see it in a different way. Sometimes I had one guy that I was doing that with, and again, I do this with every client, but I'll never forget. I had one guy. And his childhood, and he just says, stop talking. And he starts, like, his eyes are closed, but he's looking around. He's like, I haven't seen that wallpaper for years.
Wow.
And so it took a long time to do his sessions because he just enjoyed reliving things. And a true age regression, oh man, it's reliving. So it's not remembering. So there's hypermnesia, which is an enhanced ability to remember something, which is good. And there's a lot of hypnotic techniques that do that. It's a lesser technique than revivifying. Revivifying is you're there as if it's happening all over again. Uh-huh. Yes, and this is where you get the real information as it happened, as it was recorded in the subconscious. Oh. And that's important because the conscious mind, if it looks back over time, it has a way of distorting the truth. Because we start telling ourselves about stuff and you see movies about similar things and all of a sudden you've got it's like the way little kids will whisper a sentence and it goes around the room and it's a totally different sentence.
Yes.
It's a lot like that.
Uh-huh.
And those little tiny things in those particular scenarios and youth scenes, the littlest nuances can make the biggest difference in making changes.
So it sounds like a lot of the things that we're dealing and beating ourselves up with about today came from way back when.
Generally, if you're beating yourself up, you look at your environment that's going on now and see if there's anybody that is causing that or any.
Okay.
Usually there's going to be a narcissist or something.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
In your environment that's crappy
Right.
to you. So that, I mean, it could be from the now, but if this is just something you've carried through your life and you kind of know it's very familiar, then yes, it started somewhere. It has a specific, very, very specific beginning.
Wow. Okay. This
You
is
were not
stuff.
always like this.
Yeah.
Not by any means.
And you don't realize how many layers you've put over those memories. And so you have no idea what it would be like to actually get back at them and get them out of the way. So.
Yes. And so people, when I ask them, do you know when this started? They'll say, well, I've always been like this. Or they'll say, for as long as I can remember. And then we find out there was a time when they did not feel this way. And that's their original self before that. Everything else was recorded on, it was basically the mind recording things and accepting things and coming up with ideas, mental programming or conditioning.
Wow. This is really fascinating stuff. Celeste, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed this. Oh my goodness. Yes, we have gotten to that point. You got to come back on and play with us again sometime because this is good stuff.
No problem.
I want to get you back on talking about radio too. Hey, can you help the radio dream? You know, all of us in radio have that dream where the record's running out. Could you help the radio dream, you think?
Absolutely, absolutely. That comes from trauma. You know, you were traumatized when that red phone rang over and over again.
Oh my gosh, yes. The blink, blink where you're going, okay, there went my job.
Yes, and somebody else always wanted your job. Yeah. But most people aren't that traumatized by it. People are going to come in for things they're really, really traumatized for. Generally, it doesn't, you know, we're not going to seek help for things that aren't that bad, you know.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Celeste, thank you so much for this. People can contact you on Facebook, huh? You're on there.
Yes, yes. Family First Hypnosis. Probably the best way is to just call me or go to my website. My website is familyfirsthypnosis.com and my phone number is 972-673-0110.
You're just right there. You go. I love it. Yeah. All right, great. And I'll make sure that's in the
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being with me, Celeste. I really appreciate it. This was fascinating stuff. I'm just still into it right now. So we'll see you back here again soon. And for the rest of you who joined us today, thank you so much for joining us. Please come back next week, 6 o'clock Wednesday. We're looking forward to seeing you. Oh, I think next week we have the psychic medium, the spiritual medium. A psychic is coming on. So come join us for that one next week.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, it will be. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. Bye.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Recalculating Route. Join us next Wednesday evening at 6 Central.